Hello, I'm Roger. I'm going to show you about the system I've created, which is called expense tracker or expense management system. Before we start, let's start with looking into the codes, how it works when it comes to coding. First of all, this is the project I've created. It's called Expense Keeper. Then I'm going to show you step by step how codes are working and so on and so forth. Let's first of all start by looking about the project structure, which is stating that there is source folder which contains all entire code, and also there is a POM file which is containing the configuration files. To mean that the configuration files of the project are stored in POM file. To mean that when you need to add a dependency or remove a dependency, you have just to modify this POM. According to this POM, you are seeing that there are many dependencies I've added, including Java X persistence, which works with the GPA. Also, there is Spring Boot starter and others. Let's move into the search directory. Let me use this Java resources, then source main Java. As you can see, there are at least 5 packets. This conf contains nothing. It means that we should not be considering it. Let's see, this is Expense Keeper, which contains 2 classes respectively. There is a RESTO application, which will be running as the runner of my project. It will be running the entire code. To mean that when you runs this code, this run application is the file that is going to be running, so that to initiate other classes and even packets. There is a separate initializer which is used just to run your project on the web, especially when you export it to the external Tomcat application. Then let's move to the controller. As you know, the controller is a file which contains all paths and contains the behaviors of your entire project. To mean that this controller, which is called expense controller, contains all paths that my project will be using. First of all, there is expenses parent URL. To mean that all sub URL will be running under expenses. To mean this create, when you are going to access this create, you have to run expenses, then you finally add the create. I will show it to you later. There is a get mapping. To mean that when you run this URL, this is what you are going to see, which contains create which contains create templates. To mean that this create template is a file which is containing the UI of the create expense file. Then there is post mapping, which maps to create also. This post mapping specifies that when you submit an expense, it is going to be handled here. It will be handled by the create expense method. Then there is list, which also contains the home directory mapping. To mean that when you call list, you are going to get the list of expenses. This edit process, when you request to edit an expense, this edit will be working. To mean that you have to pulse the URL, which is expenses, then edit, and you put there the ID of the expense you need to edit. Finally, the expense repository has to find the ID specified in the respective database. Mean that it will access the database and returns the entire object of the expense you are going to edit. This update mapping maps it to which codes will be processing the update request. You requested to update something, then which will be processing this update. It will be processed by here, and also delete. It's like update, but delete also deletes the record. Then after controller, we have what we call the model. The model, it's similar like a table in the database. There is entity expense. To mean that there is a table which is called expense in the database. It will be handling all of the columns here. As you can see, I have ID, description, amount, and even expense date. Expense date will be auto increment by will be auto-generated by current timestamp, where I have also specified on create expense date record date time, to mean that you haven't to write this you don't have to write this expense date, to mean that the system will automatically assign it when you request to create an expense. There is an expense repository which extends GPA repository just to include all the functions used to access the database, including find all, create, select, and even delete, and also others. As we completed this section of the classes that will be controlling our entire website, let's move on the user interface. On user interface, just we have to go inside in source, let me see it, search source, then templates. As you can see, we have almost many files. There is create, edit, footer, head, index, list, and login, and others. But you are going to focus on, first of all, index. The index is the file you'll be seeing when you open the URL, to mean that the home page of your index. It includes head and also footer. The head contains these codes just to provide the entire look of the system, and also footer will be providing the entire look of the footer. And also, when you request just to list, it will list expenses with expense. Here it's a link for creating new expense, and also here it's through the expenses object, and store the data in expense, and also you will be just looping through all data returned by the expenses object just to display them. Also, there is edit. When you request to edit something, this is a form just to edit, and when you click on update, it will directly go to the URL called expenses update. And also, let's see how to create expense. When you request to create expense, this is the form that will be appearing, and also then click to the create button. When you click on this button, just it will create this expense. Let's learn our project and see how the results will be like, and how the system will be looking like. Let me check if the system is already running. Oh yeah, as you can see, the system is now running. Yeah, to mean that the system is already running on the port 40. Just to run this project, you have to right click, then learners, then Java application. You will see something similar like this. Then to access the system, we'll go in the browser and type enter 40 as the port, and also wait. As you can see, the system opens and it is showing us the index page of my system. Then you have to create a new expense. Suppose that you have expense that have occurred, you have to record it here. Then to list the expenses, you have to click on the list. As you can see, these are the expenses before. Also, let me add new expense. Let me add like transport fees of 5,000. When I create it, it just appears here. Let me update this, which was created before. Then modify it from cross payment, like let me add jump, the type of the code that was bought. As you can see, it will appear here. Then I can also delete it. Yeah, this is similar how to delete it and even update. This is the list. I have seen create, I have seen update, and also delete. I think this is how the system works, but I can go without showing the clear look of the database. PHP my admin as the database administration tool I'm using. Then let's wait for it. After it opens, I have to go in then store as the database I've specified. Then you can see the expense table, and also you can see data inside. This is how the system works. It's expense tracker by me. Thank you for watching. Let's meet on the next